My father, he was a horseman, and when I was like 10 years old, learned to drive horses. It's not that I wanted to do it back then, but I learned enough by the observation to be able to do it when I got older. Before the tractor, everybody had tractors. A lot of people, I find that with their first introduction to the horse, they treat it like a machine. Like you say whoa and the brakes are on, you know. And to me, it's more like being on a boat in rough water, that there's always movement going on, and you always have to be in touch with the movement with horses. For me, it's a discipline. It's actually maybe like somebody doing the yoga or something like that, because you really takes you out of yourself, makes you focus. I think it's a lesson right in the horses. It keeps you humble, because you know, with a tractor, people get on a big machine and they have that power. But with a horse, you have to be polite. You have to ask them. You have to get their willingness and attention.
Easy.
And with a tractor, you don't have to do that. Yeah. The immigrant kids, it was quite common for them to work at an early age. I work for farmers. The owner of the farm looked at me and figured I was a little bit too light to pitch bales, so he says, well, you can drive the tractor. But I'd never been near a tractor before. So and then he looked at me when I hesitated, and he said, well, if you don't want to do it, you can go home. So that's where I learned to drive a tractor. But I don't know if that affected my attitude or not, but I got good at a tractor when I was 12 years old, and I found it quite lonely and boring. I like horses. I like the idea of horse farming, and it's a clean way to do it, and it also takes a lot of skill. I have this thing for traditional ways, not just to say, well, that's the old way, you know. I mean, to me, that's often the good way. When we depend on an industrial system for our survival, we might protest all that and think that we're defeated and so on, but it still works, eh? But if we want to get our power back and be able to do things for ourselves and not pay other people to live our lives for us, we have to be devoted. We have to learn stuff and stick with it. We've been industrialized on all levels, and when you have that realization, you know, we feel helpless, eh? Like, I know people that are 40 years old and they're still babies. They're still like, they have this, you know, they treat me like a parent or something, you know. But you know, you should be over that. You should be over that. Like, we have lost that concept of manhood and growing up and all that somehow, you know. Like, you don't have that extreme whatever it is to push you out in the world. At one time it was a young fella'd go to sea because he couldn't get along with his father, for instance. That's natural. That's natural to be forced out of the nest, just like the grizzly bear beats up her cubs, send them away, you know, give them a good beating, and then he won't follow her around anymore, you know. And our nature is the same, to be ousted out of the nest at a certain. But with all the infrastructure and all the industrial whatever, makes us so that we don't have to grow up, eh? We don't have to go it on our own and whatever.